What's happening, guys? I'm Yogi Steve. This is ESA, the Electric Scooter Academy. I make videos about high-powered scooters and working on them. Usually when I say working on them, I mostly mean doing food delivery, but I also mean actually doing mechanical work on the scooters. I do the tires, the brakes, I can fix the stem. I can do a couple things on it. I always do a safety check on the scooter before I go out. Today I couldn't believe what I found on the Dualtron Ultra as I was just doing a general safety check throughout it. And after I tell you what went wrong with it, I'll tell you exactly how I safety check the scooters. So I was just eyeballing the entire scooter, and I couldn't believe what I found, that this nut that goes here at the top of the swing arm is just gone. The nut and the washer had just fallen out. I think this happened because just this week I increased the strength of my electrical brakes from 3 to 4, which made a really big difference. Anytime I would brake, it would really throw the stem. It would really put a lot of pressure on the stem. I'm not sure that's how this happened. There is a possibility that when I took the tire off and replaced it about a month ago, that I just simply didn't tighten it enough. But I was absolutely shocked when I looked at it, and the nut and the washer are just gone. The front nut and washer are fine. It's not a common problem. Front nut and washer does a pretty good job of holding the swing arm in place. But regardless, what like a terrible problem to be riding around and your freaking front axle is not on properly. So that happened. Now I know the haters are going to say it's a cheap piece of shit, cheap Chinese manufacturing. Understand I have 5,500 miles on the scooter. I did take it apart and put it back together myself. There's a good chance I just didn't make it tight enough. That's why you got to do safety checks on these things. Even on the best scooters in the world, something can go wrong. I don't think the nut, the washer, the swing arm, and the front axle are actually considered cheap, because I really think the frame for this scooter is probably one of the best frames on the market. So let me quickly go over how I safety check the scooter before I go out for work. Alright, so the first thing I do before I take the scooter out for a 25 or 30 mile ride is I take my Allen wrench. I got this pretty cool Dualtron Mini Motors Allen wrench kit, and I check all the deck screws. I just put the Allen wrench in there and I just make sure that all these screws are in there pretty tight. You know, over time, some of these do get loose. It tends to be more of these on the corners. I've never actually really seen, yeah, see this one right now is a little bit loose. I'm going to tighten it up. These over here, those never get loose. But checking the corners and the side screws, you know, these can get loose. So you check those. You want to make sure you tighten those every day. The next thing I will usually do is I'll spin the wheel, make sure it's spinning freely. I'll check both sides. Right now this side is anchored down a little bit so you can't really see it. Next thing I'll do is I'll grab the brakes. What I'll do is I'll take the brakes and I'll squeeze down on them and just make sure that the tires are stopping. So what I'll do is I'll push the scooter forward, hit the brake, make sure the brakes are working. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Just make sure the front and the rear brakes are working well. And then I'll go around the frame and I'll just make sure that these nuts are on tight. That's how I discovered this problem. I'll just do it by hand and make sure there's nothing loose in here, make sure there's nothing weird. You can imagine what I felt when I saw that this nut was gone. So I'll check the nut and the washer here, make sure it's tight. There's another one here, make sure there's no play in it. So the way you check the tires is with both hands. You don't want to just take one hand and squeeze the tire. You want to take both your hands and squeeze the tire. Make sure if it's got the proper amount of air in it. Of course, you can use your tire pressure gauge to make sure that it's set to the proper PSI. The way I check the folding stem, especially the hinges, I like to grab my hands here where the hinge is and then move the stem and see if there is any more play in the above or below the gear nut, or if there's at least any more or less play than last time you checked it. But it's real important that you safety check your scooter. Guys, I'm Yogi Steve. This is ESA, the Electric Scooter Academy. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video if you liked it, and definitely talk to me. Leave a comment down below. Thanks.